Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Cancer for August 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, to sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community, and to check out my current offerings, including my new webinar, Unleash Your Money Magnet. So what do we have going on in August? We've got the things that are happening in August as what we're going to focus on, but also know that there's two really important events in September, a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, that are going to start to come into present moment in August for many people. 4 to 6 weeks before those eclipses, we're often having news, information, events that are related to the eclipses that are happening before the events actually happen. Eclipse time is an extended experience that has many umbrellas of time periods that we're working under. It's complex. We'll talk more about that next month where the events actually happen. But do know that some very life-changing news is likely to come in for many people starting in August. People often call, well, astrologers will often call the eclipses like an astrological correction. If you're focusing on certain things, then an event comes and twists your focus onto something else. And sometimes they're very challenging things, but that you wind up making lemonade out of, right? If they're lemons, you have this chance to make wonderful lemonade and say, wow, well, that was a challenging experience, but I turned it into this. You know, eclipses are notorious for that type of energy where you get moved into a place that you wouldn't have not been able to be rattled sufficiently enough without something really earth-shattering to get you corrected in a certain direction of where you're supposed to be headed. Astrological correction. So we have that energy starting very strong in August. We also have Venus retrograde, and Venus went retrograde on July 25th. It's going to stay retrograde until the 6th or 7th of September, and there's a shadow period of about a month before, which started at the end of June. So the end of June to the end of July was the shadow period. End of July the transit started. End of July, all of August into the first week of September, Venus was retrograde. Then another month afterwards until around the first week of October is the shadow period afterwards. We hear about Mercury retrograde all the time because this happens 3 or 4 times a year, and we spend about half of the year, about 26 weeks, in some level of the shadow or retrograde Mercury period. So we don't know as much about Venus retrograde because we're not focusing on it as much. So because of that, I made a separate video called Venus retrograde that I highly recommend that you listen to, because I'm not going to be able to cover all the very important points that really have to be covered. Venus rules love, beauty, and money. This transit happens for about 7 weeks plus the 2-month shadow period, 1 in the front, 1 in the back. So around 4 months where it's being affecting us every year and a half. Okay, so then this planet that rules love, beauty, and money slows down. It's not the best time for certain things, and it's actually the worst time for certain things, and you definitely want to watch that video. You can search for it on my channel. It's called Venus Retrograde, Annie Botticelli, and then put in Venus Retrograde. Okay, so the other things we have going on are this amazing, brilliant cluster of energy, all in the sign of Leo. I always think about these clusters of planetary energies as like a party, right? So every time you go to a party, you notice there's people with these different personalities, right? And so each of the planets has their own personality. They have that thing that they bring and their range of potential things that they bring. The sign that the planets are in is the mood. Okay, so the mood of this party, and the party has Jupiter for a short time until August 11th, which we're going to talk about at length. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, and the new moon. All of these are the party members in Leo. Okay, this big cluster of energy, and Leo is festive and Leo is vibrant. So there's this mood of vibrance and creative expression, and you know, everything sizzly and Leo-y. It's just, you know, it's about leadership, it's about art, it's about music, it's just about creative expression. It makes me think of the little what is he? I want to call him a wood nymph or something, but Pan, you know, he's like dancing around, being lecherous, playing instruments, and, you know, indulging in the physical things that there are to enjoy. And Leo energy is very much about that enjoyment energy. And so it's a very festive party that's going on. And for you early degree placements, this party is really strong in your third house. The house of communication, the house of writing and getting your information out to people, sharing information, the house of your movement, your mobility, and this includes the energy of being busy. This is the third house of Gemini. This is busy, busy, busy. So for you early degree placements, this is going to be super busy time. For you middle to late degree placements, this is going to be a little bit staggered. So this busyness is going to come more into August than into September. For you later degree placements, that party will move into your third house. If you can imagine this, the difference between the early, middle, and late degree placements, this is really important to understand, because it takes a little bit more time to go into these details, but I do it because I feel like I'm completely missing the boat if we don't talk about this. That's why I take the time to address it, because if you have an early degree placement, your chart for the month and it's going to look completely different almost than if you have a late degree placement. If you have a late degree placement, so between around 20 degrees and 29 degrees that your Cancer sign is in, you really want to consider also watching the Leo report, because the late degree Cancer report is actually very similar, if not exact in some ways, to the early Leo placement. So if you listen to the early Leo placements and also listen to the Cancer, because there's going to be pieces in each of them for you, it's a complex thing. It's not just black and white. So if you listen to the Leo report for you later degree placements, and then pay attention to when I say early degree Leos, that's going to be most relevant to you. But it's like if you've got this, if you're stretched out, all of the Cancer placements are stretched out on this street, ready to watch a parade with a marching band, okay? So the early degree placements have this front seat to whatever happens. They're having these planets move into this house, whatever house it's going into first, okay? So once the marching band gets out in front of these early degree placements, the middle degree placements are like, ooh, it's really close, I can really feel it, the band is right there. They're not in front of them yet, but it's getting really close to the middle degrees. The late degree placements are like, oh, I can hear this out in the distance. It's brewing. The energy is increasing in this area. But until the marching band gets in front of the middle degree, you don't have a front and center experience of the marching band, which is totally different than it being down the block. And then later on, the marching band gets in front of the late degrees. So that's why I divide this up into these segments, because it's going to be staggered. So this huge party of busyness, of just activity and motion and moving here and there and information is going to be full on for you early degree placements in August. Then as we get towards the end of the month, the middle degree placements are going to start to have this full on, and then into September, your late degree placements are going to have just busyness, information coming in, information going out, writing, communicating, dealings with your neighborhood, things relevant to your community, that like in your close proximity neighborhood, relatives, things with relatives that aren't your parents or kids, like siblings and aunts and uncles and cousins. That energy is all of the third house. So for every planet that you have in that house, there's another element of that house being brought into your experience at that time, and it is chock full. So you've got Venus, which brings money and harmony. You've got the Sun, which brings a focus. You've got the new moon, which brings new opportunities. You've got Jupiter, which is still expanding energy, you know, or actually, we'll talk about Jupiter separate. We'll keep him aside right now because we have to do more with him. So this energy of the third house is very fully accentuated for you early degree placements. For you, some of you, the rest of you middle and late degree placements, you're having this huge party in your house of finances, money coming in, money going out. How are you going to make money? What are money making ideas? What's your strategy? What do you value? Everything involving finances is very much brought into the picture. We're also having a new moon in this sign of Leo. You early degree placements are going to experience this in the third house, some new chapter opening with a writing project, with any of the, with transportation, with busyness, with your communication devices, etc. This is for you early placements. Some of you middle placements might also have this. The rest of you middle and late degree placements are going to have this new moon, this new chapter opening in your house of finances, a new stream of income, a new something involving your financial security is being brought into the picture, being opened up to you. Plus, all these other planets are there in the party, so it's just bringing all these elements of money, 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 money. So speaking of which, now we can talk about Jupiter. When you have planets that take a shorter amount of time to move around, like the Sun and Mercury and Venus, when we're talking about the timeline as far as how long the middle and late degree placements have to wait to have that experience, it's shorter because these planets move pretty quickly. So you hear that I said those planets that were just in the third house for your early degree placements towards the end of the month into September, they'll move there for your later degree placements. But when you have a planet that takes longer to move around, like Jupiter, takes 12 years to move around, is in one sign for about a year, then this staggering is stretched out for a further amount of time. So Jupiter is about to make a sign change. It's about to go into Virgo, and Virgo rules the third solar house. So all these things that I just talked about as a focus for August, that for you early degree placements is starting a trend of being a focus for the next year into next September 2016. Jupiter, the great expander, the bringer of luck, the bringer of opportunities and growth, is moving very strongly into your sector of communication and information and transportation. So that's going to be starting this huge trend for you. So August is like a kickoff party for Jupiter moving into that placement. Now you later degree placements, so basically early and middle degree placements, you've had for the last year Jupiter accentuating your second house of finances and material possessions. And many Cancers will report that since last spring, their finances have completely, just totally changed. They've had more money-making opportunities. They have more streams of income. They're making more money. It's very common when Jupiter moves through a second house that your finances improve tremendously. Now, what also can happen is your bills increase as well. And I have been warning about this as I've been talking about this, because if you're not careful, you can finish a Jupiter transit and have no more money in the bank than you did in the year before, because you increased your standard of living with the increase in income. So I always think it's prudent when you have these kind of transits to tithe some, save some, you know, pay off debt, and then spend the excess rather than just increasing your spending tremendously, so that when you have this boost, that you can be making forward movement in your finances, not just in your standard of living. So in any case, that experience is just now starting to become in the forefront for you late degree Cancer placements. So if your birthday is later in the sign, if your degree is later in the sign, you're starting off a year now of this opportunity of having your finances improved in magical ways. Now, what happens if you've just gone through, you're an early middle degree placement, you've gone through this last year and you have not had any improvement in your finances whatsoever? This kind of stuff happens often, and it doesn't mean astrology doesn't work. What it means, and I talk about this all the time, is that your inner program trumps the transits. So if you have this belief system, I'm not worthy, I can't make money doing what I love, I can only get up to a certain point and I can't expand past that, then when this potential, this raw potential of Jupiter comes in, your program is going to trump the potential. And your manifestation is going to be the same as it had been. That's why the inner work is so important, so that you can really take advantage of this. So especially if you're a late degree placement, you know, you still have a lot more time to work with this financial aspect of things. Now for you early to middle degree placements of Cancer, you're moving into how are you going to get your information out there on a bigger level? How are you going to get your blogs, get your writing within your company, whatever it is that you have to say? How are you going to share that? How are you going to get that out? And this becomes the theme that Jupiter is going to bring for you. And if you start to really get strong with your inner work now, the way that you express to the world is going to be so much more power-packed. If you are a shrinking violet, or if you are afraid of shining, as most people are terrified, people are really more afraid of their power than they are of their failure. You know, we're more afraid of success than we are of failure. It's pretty crazy, but it's absolutely true. So you really want to get a handle on this so that as Jupiter comes and makes you more busy in this next year, and for your later degree placements, that will be into next year. But you really want to get these things cleared up so that Jupiter can just work its magic. Okay, so on the 11th, that's when Jupiter starts to switch into Virgo. On the 14th, we've got that new moon. And this new moon is the first new moon that is not encumbered by madness. We've had several months of the new moon's thunder being completely stolen by mischief. And so we don't have that happening. So then we have the full moon at the end of the month. We've got a full moon in Pisces, and this is on August 29th. All full moons bring a completion or coming to fruition or a welling up of something. And usually it's emotional. Sometimes it's emotional in an exciting, wonderful way. Sometimes it's emotional in a challenging way, a dramatic way. But either way, full moons are emotional. And when we have a full moon in a water sign like Pisces, for this full moon on August 29th, it can be even more emotional because it's in this water sign. So, you know, my advice is always leave a little bit of space around this date. I always experience the full moon about 24, 48, sometimes even 3 days before the actual full moon. That welling up often will happen for me beforehand. So look out for it somewhere in that cycle, because it doesn't always come, you know, into your experience on the actual day. And that's true for every transit. Anytime I give you dates, there's very, you know, different windows of time that you can experience those transits in. So for Cancer, we've got this full moon in Pisces, early degree of Pisces, rules your 9th house, your solar 9th house, but only really you early degree placements are going to actually experience this in the 9th house. All of you will have the spirit of it being in the house that rules your solar 9th house, right? So there's chance for the following for all of you, but it's stronger for you early degree placements, which is fullness coming to something in the 9th house. Very often when this full moon happens in the 9th house, a personal belief is tested. The 9th house is the house of your belief systems, the bigger picture. These, you know, it's religion, it's philosophy, it's things involving different countries and cultures, this bigger picture. So a lot of times this fullness comes to something involving your bigger picture, and it involves something coming back down to faith, feeling like you're losing your faith, something important to you being tested, you know, seriously tested. Those are all possibilities. Or it could just be something coming to fruition or completion involving an international matter, publishing project, writing, creative project that's related to the 9th house. So inspiring people, you know, communicating information, something involving interacting with an international audience. Also, you know, travel to different countries or interaction with people from different countries. All of that is in the 9th house, and that fullness can be centered around that house for you. The rest of you will experience this in the 8th house. And the 8th house is this experience of other people's money. So when we have a full moon there, something can come to fruition that has been pending. So if you've had a lawsuit pending, a court case pending, you know, an inheritance pending to be paid out, winnings of some sort, you know, pending to be paid out. If you owed money as far as debt and that was pending to be worked out, that may come due. Something involving credit or mortgage, or something involving spousal money or in-law money or your family money or a collaboration can have this fullness come to it. So that's at the end of the month. So I can't see what's going on in your individual chart. I would like very much to. If you would like to have a personal reading with me, you can go to my website, aspiritualspark.com. And you can also check out my program, Shine. This is a 28-day virtual coaching program, and it has 28 videos and 28 podcasts, each for each day of the moon cycle, intended to help you shine in this world, you know, to conquer those fears, to clear the programs that are interfering with you doing what you do in a big way. That's what it's intended for. And that's available on a sliding scale, so it's accessible to everyone. And check out my new webinar, which is called Unleash Your Money Magnet. Over 2 hours of full-on tips, tricks, energy clearing for reprogramming your money space. So check that out and definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. And I hope you have a wonderful August. I'll see you next month. Bye.